Welcome to Psyche Magic, a podcast about self-discovery and the subconscious, where we explore the symbolic language of dreams, tarot, and archetypes. I'm your host, Jordan Hale. I'm a psychotherapist based in Nashville, Tennessee. Each episode, I'll hold a casual conversation with various artists and healers about their shadow work practices. We pull tarot cards, unpack a significant dream or dream theme, and discuss their personal healing arts practices. So please grab a cup of something delicious and stay a while. While aspects of this podcast may feel therapeutic, it is never meant to take the place of therapy. Welcome back to Psyche Magic. I'm so excited for this episode. I'm going to be interviewing Ben Glover. Ben is an Irish musician and hypnotherapist. Now, this is the first time I'm broaching the world of hypnotherapy on the show, and I can assure you, Ben has made me a believer. So it's a fascinating subject, and I'm really excited to share it with you all. A couple of quick announcements before we get into the interview. The Saturday Salon is back. So I was away for a couple weeks in November, but we are back on schedule. So the Saturday Salon, which is our weekly collective creative time, is back in action on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Central Time on Zoom. So if you want to join us, you can come and listen to me cast a magic circle so that we can really protect and call up our creative energy. Then we'll all break away and do a solo creative task for about 40 to 45 minutes. And then we'll come back and share how it went. And it's just such a special, sacred time. So if you're interested, I hope that you'll join us. Additionally, I have started offering one-to-one dream coaching as a part of Psyche Magic. This is absolutely my newest passion, and these sessions are just really cozy. So you can choose 30 or 60 minutes, just depending on the type of dream, the sort of context or background that's needed in order to share about the dream, and whether you want to engage in some experiential exercise around the dream. So you get to choose your own adventure, but these are just intuitive coaching sessions where we talk about a dream or a dream theme. We unpack the dream and its symbols, and we play around with some different dream work methods and ways of looking at the dream in a different light and gleaning some insight. We incorporate tarot, and it's just a really magical, fun time. So I hope that you'll sign up and check it out. The events tab has all of the information on our website, which is psychemagicpodcast.com. We had such a fun synchronicity with this episode. So Ben, as I mentioned, is from Ireland, Northern Ireland specifically. And my husband Daniel and I were lucky enough to actually get to take a vacation to Ireland in November. So Ben was kind enough to give us all kinds of lovely recommendations, and we had the best time. Ireland is incredibly magical. The people are just so exuberant and lovely and fun and funny. And not to mention, it's just such a sight of natural beauty. We got to go check out Giant's Causeway up in Northern Ireland, which was just incredible and majestic. And we just really connected with not only the people, but the land. So we're so grateful that we got to have that opportunity. And it was just really fun that it aligned around my lovely Irish guest for today. As many of you know from listening to the show, my husband and I have been through some loss this year, and this was just such a needed adventure and excursion, and just really gave us a shot of life that we were desperate for. So the timing could not have been better. There's also something so poignant and powerful about the spirit of a place that's been through recent war, recent hardship. There's a really special sort of twinkle in the eye, a special sort of zeal to a group of people that know that peace is not something we can ever take for granted. And it really ties in with this idea I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is this sort of wounded healer archetype. As a Jungian enthusiast, this is one of Carl Jung's favorite archetypes, and it was something that he was just continually fascinated by throughout his lifetime. The sort of special, almost kind of superpower that comes out of the wound. And it was even known for saying that the wound, whether it be, physical, emotional, spiritual, the wound is the place where God enters. And I think that this really ties in with the philosophy of my guest today. Sadly, spiritual abuse is something that is found across all different types of religions and spiritual healing circles. And I really love lifting up those who are working in the healing arts who hold integrity and humility as their core values. So this is something we're going to be getting into in more depth on future episodes as well. It's a subject that's really deeply personal and important to me. Just in my work, it's so important to come back to that sort of decolonization idea that comes from not touting myself as the expert in the room, but instead really collaborating and learning from my clients and anyone that I'm working with in any capacity. And I can tell by my conversation with Ben that this is absolutely his stance and value as well. And it actually reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Carl Jung. So I'm going to share that now. Quote, "Instead of telling them guidance comes from God, we can show them that the psyche has awakened to spontaneous life by showing them when in dreams or fantasies, themes and symbols appear whose source in consciousness cannot be shown. This is the eternal interconnection of the collective unconscious making itself known, communicating, creating synchronicities, and helping us feel connected to something greater than ourselves. To the patient, it is nothing less than a revelation when, from the hidden depths of the psyche, something arises to confront him, something strange that is not the eye, and is therefore beyond the reach of personal experience. He has gained access to the source of psychic life, and this marks the beginning of the cure." And now, without further ado, onward to my interview with Ben Glover. All right. Ben Glover, welcome to Psyche Magic. I'm so glad that you're here.
Hi, Jordan. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you. So happy to be here.
I think it's going to be really nice. Even just in our little pre-chat, I was just feeling so energized and excited. So yay. Ben, just quickly to start us off, please share a little bit about who you are with the listeners and what you do in the world.
Okay, well, as you might notice from the accent, and as your listeners might notice from the accent, I'm not from Nashville originally, although I am based here in Nashville now. I come from a little village called Glenarm in the north of Ireland. It's about 30 miles north of Belfast. I grew up there and loved it. An incredible place to grow up. Quintessential little Irish village right on the water, 400 people, very special. My world was full of music, songwriting, recording, touring from the age of, I started writing songs when I was 13. Went to college. I studied law, believe it or not, but I always knew I wanted to be a musician. So got the degree and then jumped head first into music and made records. I made 10 albums. Did the whole thing, signed to a label in London, toured, co-wrote, and that brought me to Nashville in 2007. When I got to Nashville, I was here for a week's co-writing. I also happened to meet my would-be wife on that trip.
Oh.
So from that moment on, Nashville became such an important place in my life. Made the move here permanently in 2009, still full-time in music. And then a pandemic hit in 2020, which changed the world for a lot of people and certainly changed my world. Touring shut down. I had to cancel 3 tours in Europe that year. And, you know, like so many people, the world changed. It was like, okay, what now? But in a way, Jordan, it was really fortuitous. It opened up a brand new chapter in my life. So I'm not grateful for the pandemic. I'm grateful for the opportunity that the pandemic offered. So in 2019, as it happened, I'd started to study. I was doing a 2-year training course to become a meditation teacher. So I'd already started to look at what might else be there for me to engage with as well as music. Still, of course, doing music, but I was trying to, integrate some of my other interests into my life, and one of those was meditation and hypnosis. So I'd already started studying meditation. Pandemic happened. 2nd year of the meditation course, threw myself right into it. Started putting the word out amongst friends. In 2020, look, if you're dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress, I might be able to teach you some very simple calming exercises, relaxation exercises. And all of a sudden, this little community of friends started to come to me on Zoom, and it was beautiful. I was able to share with my friends these practices that I had been using since I was 8 years old. And I got my meditation qualification. I then did some formal hypnotherapy training and combined the two. So let me see, that was all. I finished my formal training in 2021. And since that, I've been full-time on Zoom doing hypnotherapy with people, meditation with people. And that's how I spend my days now. And I absolutely love it. So that seems like a very long-winded story there. Did that answer the question?
It's beautiful, and it just paints the picture for us about these different facets of who you are and what you're interested in and what's meaningful to you. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that just complete shakeup of the pandemic. And for a lot of people, I think that was an extremely transformative portal. So, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing it. And, yeah, I can't wait to sort of, parse out each of these pieces and talk more about them. But yes, thank you. Definitely the first time having someone on the show who I would say just has this convergence of, interests and specialties. That's what Psyche Magic is all about, which is this blending of the subconscious and that layer of awareness, blending it in more with our conscious lives and our creativity and the ways that can feel so life-giving and enriching. So yes, it's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're here with us, and I can't wait to get into it. So yeah. Yay!
Lovely. Excellent.
Well, so, okay, to, kind of set the stage, let's do our tarot pull, because that's how we like to start things off here at Psyche Magic.
Okay,
by the way, are you a tarot person at all, Ben?
I have certainly had my cards read a number of times in the past.
Exactly, like more sort of on the receiving end, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not a reader, but and I'm very open to and a believer in it all. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and for me, a big part of what happened during the pandemic is that I went through my own sort of spiritual awakening, transformation. And what happened was I started just pulling a tarot card every day. And I started noticing just the very profound synchronicities that would happen over and over again. And it was so beautiful to just feel my, sort of my external world and my internal world matching up so often. And it just made me feel really connected and really interconnected. So I like to bring it in to the show and just see what comes up. So I shuffled the cards already. I sort of was, setting that intention of just connecting with your energy, with both of our energies. And this is the card that I got. So I'll show it to you and I'll describe it to the listeners. So this is the 7 of Pentacles. And for the listeners who might not know, the card depicts a man, and he's got some kind of tool, like a hoe or a rake or something, and he's holding it. He's got his chin propped up, and he's looking at this sort of very lush kind of garden area that he has. So it looks like these vines that have grown up, and there are 7 pentacles kind of spilling off of the vines, and he's just sort of gazing at them. So just first take, Ben, like when you look at this card, what happens for you? What do you notice? What comes up?
The first thing I noticed was the pensive, contemplative look on his face. And then, of course, I saw the tool, which initially I felt that it was a staff he was leaning on. But then I saw as you said, it was like the hoe or the spade part at the bottom. And then, honestly, what came up was looking at the green vegetation, if that's what it is. It was like, if he's staring into this lush garden, what if he's staring into his own subconscious, being pensively looking into the garden of his subconscious?
Yeah, there is, for a lot of because we use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, just kind of the most classic recognizable tarot deck. And in a lot of these depictions of the cards, I would say that the characters' sort of faces and expressions are often maybe the last thing that I'm paying attention to. Like they're not super, I don't know, obvious. They don't have a ton of character a lot of the time. But this one does. Mm-hmm. There's something about his face and just the way that he looks that feels really important. So yeah, I like your kind of inclination of maybe this is an inward sort of gaze. Like maybe this is kind of like a moment of contemplation. I feel that too.
Yeah, and inward, there definitely is that inward look, but also is interesting that he's looking to look inward as well. And the way he's holding his body is very, he's relaxed. There's not a lot of tension there, calm. Yeah. Grounded. That's another word.
Yeah, and that makes sense because we're with the Pentacles suit, which in tarot is all about sort of the just sense of the material world, but it's really kind of root chakra stuff, like sense of safety, stability, security, rootedness, groundedness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I pull this card, I always think about just like stopping to take stock of all of the fruits of our labor and like how much that we've accomplished. And I feel like so often it's like society is pushing us to just be moving forward and just looking at what's next, like what now. And it's really nice to stop and just take a moment just of gratitude. Like, look how much there already is. Like, I already have everything that I need. I've already done so much, and it's okay to appreciate that and rest.
Absolutely. Take the pause. Just take the pause, which we're not encouraged to do in this culture. As you say, it's always about what's the next thing? What's the next thing? We never take the time or the space to just pause and see what's around us, be grateful for what's around us. So I'm all for more pause in our lives. It's essential because how can we know what's around us when we are continually moving?
It's true. Perceptually, you can't perceive when you're in motion in the same way. It's just not, Right. A call for stillness, a call for gratitude, a call for pause. I love that. Very apt.
Feels very apt. That'd be a nice mantra for today.
We will hold that for ourselves and for the listeners today. Okay, I'm going to keep my little Seven of Pentacle guy here so I can see him while we talk.
Let him inspire the chat.
Some more messages. All right, so let's transition. Let's talk about your dream that you brought, Ben, because it's a juicy one, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah.
I will just give you the platform to give a little synopsis of the dream. This is I love this dream, Ben, because it gets into a little bit of the like lucidity kind of quality that dreams can have. And I think that's so fun. And I don't always get to touch on that on the podcast. So I'm excited. So please share with us a little bit about your dream, and then we'll kind of unpack it.
Okay. So it happened on the 1st of October this year.
Good.
I've been keeping a dream journal. And the first dream it filled like the space of my old school back home. And I went to school. It used to be an old castle. It sounds pretty ridiculous, but it was an old castle built in like the 18th century on the top of a cliff overlooking the water. I was on one of the top of the towers on the roof of the school, and I had individuals who I went to school with. And then I woke up. There was nothing incredible about that part of the dream, but then I woke up, and for some reason I thought, consciously put yourself in this dream. Now, I don't know an awful lot about lucid dreaming. I've never really studied it. I don't know if that is an element of lucid dreaming, but I went, okay, consciously you're going to put yourself in this dream. So I closed my eyes again, and the next minute I was in this completely different space. It felt like a dry, mountainous area. Not very pretty, dusty, but it felt quite raw. And there was, and this might come across as sounding so dramatic, but there was a sense of a voice. When I say a voice, it wasn't like an external voice. It was just a voice of knowing. You know, when you get an insight, it's that internal voice.
Yes.
And the voice just said, and I've written all this down because I did write it down that night as soon as I woke up. So, and what it said was, it's time to trust the voices and to trust your dreams. And I also wrote down, just writing that made me emotional and teary when I wrote that down. And I didn't fully understand it. So I also felt in a place where I could ask questions. It was pretty incredible. So I asked the question and I said, well, what exactly does this mean? And it says, it's time you trusted your own intuition. You have to stop playing so small. And I then asked, well, who is telling me this? And the letter S kept coming up, S. And what felt like a few moments later, it said, this is supreme state. Now, I don't know exactly what that meant at the time, but it said, this is supreme state. And let me see what else it went on to say, that it was a dream which I felt that I was being told, you gotta be more believing in what you're doing. You can't play small. You can't play small. Because we all have access to this supreme state. And in the supreme state, there is no limitation. And I asked, well, how do I access it? And you know, when I wake up, how do I access it? They said, you already have the tools, you already know how. And they said, you have the rapid induction. Now, what rapid induction is a very quick form of hypnosis where you can count from 5 to 1 and you bring yourself into a deep hypnotic state. And that's what it said. It said, use your rapid induction tool. And the other thing that was going on around that time, Jordan, for me was I kind of felt I was wanting a teacher or a guide to show up for me. I just, I don't know if people have that experience. It'd be nice just to have somebody on the path to help maybe direct you. And so in the dream, I asked, can a guide show up for me? Can I see a teacher? And the answer was no, you're not getting a guide. You're not getting a guide. You have to trust your own intuition. And the way it was said, it was as if that voice was smiling at me. It wasn't being, it wasn't being dismissive, but it just says, nope, you're not getting a guide. You're your own guide. Now, who knows? Maybe that was my guide telling me that. So there is, but that's what and at the time I felt quite angry.
Frustrated.
I did feel quite frustrated. It was because I want a guide. If I'm guiding other people, I want my guide. Exactly. And then after the initial kind of frustration, I went, okay, I get it. And then the other aspect of the dream, the thing I wrote down was they said, look, this is not going to be particularly easy for you, but you just have to trust your intuition. You have to trust your intuition. Just looking down at a few other things. Supreme state kept coming up. The final message of that dream was to look after your human dimension, your human body as well. And that it was very important. You're here in human form, so you've got to look after your human body. So that was the dream, Jordan. It was the first time I ever felt that I was able to be consciously engaged with the dream.
Yes, an element of lucidity.
That was a huge shift. Yes, absolutely. And it happened in a very short time because it probably all happened within the space of 45 minutes because I did wake up and I wrote it all down. And it was pretty much stream of consciousness. And it was incredible. I mean, it's still staying with me. I still can get back to that space, to that kind of arid mountain supreme space. I still can get back there. Now, here's the other thing. It felt so normal and ordinary. It didn't feel like this was some big moment of enlightenment or some big, special experience. It felt so normal, so ordinary. And even when I woke up, I hadn't the urge to go, oh my God, to tell everybody, oh my God, I had this incredible dream. I was like, that was really interesting, but that's what it was, just really interesting. Really ordinary, but really interesting. And also, the information it imparted for me felt very apt, very real and meaningful and helpful.
Okay. I want to say like 5 different things at once, so I gotta like reel it in. I can relate so much to this idea that when there is, this is something that like Carl Jung would have called like a big dream, right? Special moment that feels really important. And also, I feel like those messages often are the most just simple. And there's almost like this recognition of like, this feels so profound. And yet I recognize that I already know this. Like, I feel like it speaks to that sense of sort of normalcy that you cited, where it's like, this is so powerful and profound, and it's opening up my world. And also,
completely ordinary.
Like, of course, this is what it is. In some ways, I already recognize that and understand that. And yet, a part of me maybe needed to hear it. A part of me maybe needed to experience it in this way in order to really, like you're saying, to be directed towards like really committing and really believing and really feeling like with every aspect of my being that I can trust this. This is real.
Yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing, the information that I got from that, like basically was like trust yourself. Okay, so it probably was being inspired by some just lack of maybe confidence, as we all experience. But interestingly, if somebody had, in waking life, if somebody had said to me, say for instance, if you said to me, Jordan, that day, you got to trust in what you're doing, trust the voices, trust your intuition, I would have taken it on board, absolutely. But there was something about hearing it in the dream that, I guess because it's happening in dream state, because it's happening in subconscious, that it seems to be wiring in deeper. The impact of it seems to be a lot more, well, just, it feels like it threads in deeper.
That makes so much sense to me. I've experienced my own versions of that, absolutely. And to me, though, I really do think that is part of the gift of these kind of glimpses of lucidity that can happen, is that like my conscious awareness gets to meet my subconscious, like in these really beautiful moments, these little glimpses. And even if it doesn't happen very often, or even if it just happens once or twice, it's extremely powerful. Okay, but so I'm really curious about sort of the idea of like the mountainous the landscape of the dream feels really interesting to me. Like the fact that, because you talk about growing up in Ireland and there's water and there's lush, and it's just, the dream presented a very different type of landscape than that from which you come from. And I wonder if there's any association or idea that you have about why the dream might have presented itself that way to you. I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I've thought about it, because I still, like, talking to you right now, I remember very clearly the landscape. It was very dry. There was like a little stream, but the stream was dry as well.
Interesting.
It was dusty. It wasn't beautiful at all. There was one like big, like kind of stony mountain. There was nobody, there was no green. There was nobody else there. I don't know. I don't know why that was the landscape for it. I really don't know. And I said, that's what they said, supreme state. And you know what? I haven't actually thought about the meaning of the landscape, which is very interesting that you brought that up. Maybe there was nothing there to take my attention away from what the messages or what the conversation was. But nothing distracting there.
Very sparse.
Again, very, not picturesque, very ordinary. If it would have been in this beautiful, lush, paradise-like scene, that might have fallen into, might have made more sense, but this was the opposite. So I wonder if that's it. There was no other distraction. It was just, in this very ordinary, rugged place, you find some of the most profound insights and intuitions. Maybe there's something, we don't have to go, our environment doesn't have to be absolutely beautiful and perfect for us to really get the message or the insight.
I know.
Could be that.
Yes, because part of the message is that like you have this within you. Like you don't have to get it from anywhere else. Like you have this sort of life force, the ability to thrive, to intuit, to know. And it can just come from within. Yeah, I don't know. It's like sticking with me already. Like I love your dream.
It's so clear. And there was a lot of space in it. There was a lot of spaciousness. So that element makes sense.
So cool.
Yeah, fascinating.
I just love that. Yeah, I've only had a handful of really lucid experiences where I knew I was dreaming and I was just gallivanting around the universe. Like, I had one where I was like swimming with dolphins and then I was like flying and I was like, this is amazing.
It's that dream state, subconscious world. That's where the real adventures are to be had.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why wouldn't I want to pay attention to this? I get to do the coolest stuff.
There you go, and it's a lot cheaper. You don't have to go and buy a plane ticket.
Seriously. But I just love that, Ben, and I love that you were like. It just sounds like it was so emotional for you too, like to be able to.
It was, absolutely, because when I wrote it down and I'm looking at the page, I printed it out and it's the 2 pages of type and I wrote down, writing this line has made me emotional and teary. This line has made me emotional and teary. And as I say, it happened in very short. It was about 45 minutes. It was around 12:30 midnight till about 1:15, 1:30. Very powerful.
Okay, now one aspect of the dream that I'm interested in and that will kind of segue us into a little bit more of your work is that you said that part of it was they were giving you this specific instruction around this meditation technique or this hypnosis technique that you already have. I already forgot the name of it, but tell us more about that.
It's called rapid induction. So, rapid hypnosis, really, rapid relaxation. Very simple, and I teach it to a lot of my clients, usually in the first session. How we do this is, so after the initial 10, 12 minutes of relaxation in the hypnosis, I'll ask the client on a scale of 0 to 30, that's the relaxation scale, what number you are on that scale. 30 being most relaxed, 0 being not relaxed. And within seconds, people will give me their number. And most of the time, it ranges from, let's say, 18 to 27, 28. Okay, and then I say, okay, from that moment on, anytime you choose, you're now familiar with what that number on the scale is. Anytime you choose to bring yourself to that number on the scale, close your eyes, set the intention. I'm dropping to number, say, 24, and count from 5 to 1. And when you get to 1, you will effortlessly land on that number. So it's a really powerful, practical tool to have, Jordan, because it's, for when I'm working with a client and say session 2, we don't have to go through the 10 minute of relaxation. I can just go, right, we're going to use the scale here. So we're going to get to that deep state very quickly. Also, the scale is flexible, okay? So the more you get familiar with it, say you're hitting 24 first time around, you want to bring yourself up to 28, 29, you can. It's just a bit more practice. Also, it works the other way. If you want to bring yourself, say you're going into a meeting or a conversation that you're feeling a bit anxious or stressed, you want to bring yourself to maybe an 8 or a 10 on the scale. So you're going to be fully conscious when you go in to engage with people, but you're already setting the intention, I'm going in here, I'm controlling my anxiety, I'm going in on a number 10. So it's a really brilliant tool. And it's called rapid induction. And that's what the voice said in the dream. It says, look, be in that state. The only work you have to do, that was the other key. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. The other key element of the dream was the only work you have to do is just to be in that state as often as you can. Okay, that state being state of deep awareness, I guess. I don't want to say subconscious, but that deep state of awareness. So they said, that's how you do it. Use the tool. And the tool really basically is a relaxation tool. It's pretty lovely that they're saying that relaxation
Sure.
is the key.
Relaxation.
Not meditation, not even hypnosis, but just relaxation, and which makes sense because relaxation gets us back into ourselves.
Yes.
Relaxation brings us into the
Yes.
subconscious as well.
It's this like natural state.
Exactly. And it feels safe. It feels safe. When you're relaxed, you feel safe. You feel back within yourself. You know, if you're relaxed, you're not 6 feet away from your body. You're connected. Yeah. So and regarding hypnosis, how do we access the subconscious?
Right.
It's through relaxation. We relax the physical body. The conscious mind follows. And when the conscious mind starts to relax, we effortlessly drift into the subconscious state.
Yes, you keep using that word effortlessly. Like this is natural.
Right.
This is normal.
That's the key.
This is my natural state of being. I can access this whenever I need to, want to. It's available to me.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the idea of that's been studied so much in, you know, our science-y psychology world, which is the idea of flow state and how when humans are in a flow state, we are calm, present, relaxed, creative, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's the same at this point. Exactly. And then this is the point now when language kind of can get in the way of it as well, because you're right, flow state is the same. It's the same feeling. Another term I like to use is unimpeded energy, and where there is no block, it's effortless, it is flow state. And in flow state, of course, I was always intrigued with flow state long before I did hypnosis work because of music. I was always intrigued as a performer, especially how does one get into that flow state. So it was always very intriguing to me. How do you access it?
Makes sense. That was a really important sort of like tool in the toolkit for being a musician, performing, being on stage, doing that day after day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Do you need even more psyche magic in your life? If so, you are cordially invited to join us on Patreon. There we release 2 bonus minisodes every month with guided exercises to help you strengthen your shadow work practices and work more deeply with the dreams, tarot, and archetypes that make up your psychic landscape. You'll also get free access to our weekly Saturday Salon events. Every Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time, we get together via Zoom to create shared sacred space for our individual creative practices. You'll also find detailed show notes for each and every full-length episode, and you'll be able to submit dreams and questions for interpretation on our new segment, Dear Dream Diary. There's just so much fun to be had. Memberships start at just $3 a month. That's patreon.com/Psyche Magic. Hope to see you there.
And seeing that the great performers are the ones who have this amazing presence about them. You know, the great performers can stand on a stage and they don't have to do anything, but they just have this sense of presence. Presence means just being there. How do you cultivate presence? You're in flow state. You're right there. So I guess that was part of the allure, like how does one cultivate presence? And you know, it's pretty obvious. You've got to be present.
Exactly.
To cultivate presence. You know, so and in that state, that's where presence is found as well.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about just hypnosis in general a little bit more. For people who are unfamiliar with hypnosis, and maybe even just understanding what would bring someone to you to do some hypnosis. What are they looking for? What is the goal? What can be sort of addressed via hypnosis? Tell us about that.
Okay. So a huge range of
sure.
issues, Jordan. I've people coming to me for anxiety. Okay. Sometimes people just feel stuck. And I have a lot of clients coming to the session going, I'm not really sure why I'm here, but I just feel stuck and I don't know what the next step is. So by diving into the subconscious, we're probably going to figure out what that block is. Usually it's a fear. Then there's the obvious elements like habit control, smoking. I get a lot of clients coming to me for smoking. I do an awful lot of inner child work.
That makes sense.
With hypnosis as well. I work with a lot of actors, screenwriters, directors in Hollywood and LA. Most of my client base is in LA. So I get to work with some incredibly creative people. And a lot of them are writers who feel creative blocks a lot of the time. Burnout is another thing we can work with. With actors, it's the same thing as well. A huge range of issues, Jordan. But there's one thing that connects them all is all I have to do is help the client identify the fear.
That makes sense.
Okay. There's always a fear behind any behavior that you're wanting to change. Okay. It doesn't matter if it's smoking. People think that smoking is working with the chemical addiction, which it is, but where I've seen most success is when we identify the fear behind giving up cigarettes, which usually is clients are scared they're going to lose a part of their identity. They're going to lose the part of them that smokes, the part of them that has been there for years and years through their hardest times.
What that represents to them.
Yes, exactly. So there's the fear. It's the same with anxiety. What's the fear? There's the subconscious. So the beautiful thing is with this work is we get to explore the fear in the subconscious.
Directly going there. Yes.
Directly going there to the place, the subconscious, which is I like to call it the library building. Okay, library stores books. Okay, yeah, it's a perfect. Well, it's a really good analogy. Library building stores books. Subconscious stores all our experiences since the moment we were born. So it stores the reasons why we do everything we do. Okay. Now, like a library building, if we want to go in and take out a book, the library building itself is completely impartial. It doesn't care if a book is removed or not. It's the same with the subconscious. It doesn't care if we had to go in and maybe bring out an old belief that's no longer serving us. It's on our side. It wants us to be the absolute healthiest, best version of ourselves. So basically, I go to work in the library of the subconscious every day. And it's beautiful. To work with people in that space is, I can't imagine a more, the privilege I have to work with people in that space. It is incredible. It's incredible.
Humbling.
It is, because people, they're so, I don't want to use the word vulnerable. They're so open at that point.
Absolutely.
And, so a lot of my work, Jordan, is there's this conversational hypnosis. So in the hypnosis, we'll have a conversation for me to help guide them to their own answers. They're doing the guiding.
And look at I don't know their based answers. On your dream, they always, right? Like parallel process.
There you go. Exactly. And the poetry that comes out of people in that state is so beautiful. And this is from people who would not ever in their wildest dreams call themselves a poet. But the language that people use to describe their subconscious is absolutely beautiful. And I love language. As a writer, I love language. And I keep a little book I have here beside me that I write down after every session, just one or two lines that somebody said, because the beauty of the language is incredible. I use a lot of metaphor hypnosis. So I'll give you an example of that. So say we're working with anxiety. So client comes to have a lot of anxiety. So we do the relaxation. Then I'll get them to feel the anxiety in their body.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And so it becomes a somatic experience, but at the same time, subconscious and somatic. So I get them to identify it, and then I get them to feel it. And then I get them to put their hand into that part of their body and lift something out.
Yeah.
And in their hand, I ask them, what is in your hand? And here's the beautiful thing, Jordan. Every time, within seconds, they will describe an object that they have taken out of their body. And those objects range from, I've written, so for instance, last week I had a client who brought an eel out of their stomach.
Wow.
Of other things, people have brought out, a lot of the time, this probably is obvious, like black, dark, gooey substance from their chest. Spiders come up an awful lot. People bring a lot of spiders out of their body. Everything. It's incredible. And that's the moment where those clients, if I'd said to them 15 minutes earlier, you're going to lift a spider out of your chest.
You are crazy.
What are you talking about? You sound crazy. You've already got this weird accent. Now you're just sounding even more weird.
We love your accent, Ben. Don't do that.
Well,
that's so funny.
But it's incredible. And we're not talking hours and hours. That's usually after 12, 13 minutes. People are in that deep state. And then, so the beautiful thing about working with metaphor is then we get to work with the object.
Yes.
Okay, so rather than say the anxiety
We're
itself.
Externalizing
so somebody lifts out a spider, for example, externalizing it, yeah. Or let me go back to the eel. I said to the guy, well, what do you want to do with the eel? He said, well, it's covered in grime and dirt. And he said, I've got two choices. He says, I can crush it in my hand or I can put it into a clean water aquarium. And thankfully, he went for the latter.
We were pulling for that, the humane option.
We were pulling for that, yeah, exactly. I didn't want to have help him clean up the mess that would have happened. I've been subconscious, with a subconscious broom and mop and detergent. But so he put it into the tank, which basically means he was nourishing, which was a fear. And then get them to bring their awareness back into that place in the body, and usually there's a change, there's an openness, there's a space, there's a relaxation. And then they also then have this image, this symbol, because the language of the subconscious is symbolism, as we know. Okay, so they then have their symbol associated with that issue. So as a practical level, if that, say, the anxiety maybe they feel it bubbling a couple of days in the future, I say, okay, just imagine the eel. Mm-hmm. Just imagine the eel. Because within seconds, your subconscious is knowing, oh, okay, we're working with anxiety again. So on a practical level, this isn't just some awesome cosmic subconscious adventure. It's like, how do we make this practical in our everyday life?
How do I relate to this symbol differently?
Yes, exactly. So it's a resource that they have, and it's so fascinating. I don't even know what your original question was. I feel I rambled a lot there, but
I just wanted to learn more about what you do, and that's so fascinating.
So the first 10 minutes of the session, I'll spend a long time talking with the client, maybe 40, 50 minutes, on what it is they're wanting to work with. And then we'll jump in. So it's all on Zoom. They're at home. They're in a comfortable space. They'll close their eyes. I'll guide them on a 10-minute relaxation. Very straightforward. Just, relaxing muscles in the body. We'll do a little bit of visualization as a deepening technique just to help them relax. And then that's about 12, 13 minutes. And then from that point, we'll do the work on the specific issue. Now, it's not always metaphor. I'm just using that as an example. It's not always metaphor. I honestly never really know what it's going to be until we jump in there.
Sense.
And I love that about it because it's creative. I haven't a clue. I really don't. I never go in fully knowing what I'm going to do in a
moment to moment, unfolding.
Exactly. And I only have a small part to play in it. It's the subconscious. It's the client's subconscious that knows exactly what it needs to do. I'm just there. Well, it is, and it's so true. I'm just a facilitator. I have a couple of tools. It's like I'm the tour guide. I can tell you what might be a nice place to go and visit in the subconscious and how to get there. But after that, you're the tourist. Now, the other beautiful thing, deep relaxation and hypnosis resets your nervous system. So that's what I tell clients is, look, if you only get that out of this session,
good point.
Amazing. We kind of overlook that. Deep relaxation is so medicinal.
And it helps to not have these sort of grandiose expectations and pressures, which I'm sure can impede the process, right? Like it creates tension.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So that's why the relaxation, that becomes a gateway. And as I say, as I tell clients, if you just walk away here, and I record all the actual practices for clients, so as they get to use them, so they have their own specified practice, hypnosis that they get to listen to. So again, if we're resetting our nervous system via a practice every day, that's going to help every single part of our body and mind. So that's why I love hypnosis, hypnotherapy, is because it combines, integrates all these elements.
Wow.
So very powerful.
I know. I have never experienced hypnosis, not in the way that you're describing it, and I would love to. So I will have to inquire about that with you. But
well, the good thing is, Jordan, I think I can point you in the direction of somebody that you might be able to do that.
I have a good feeling about that.
I think I know a guy.
Yes, I would love to experience this. From my own limited experience, I can say that it reminds me of work that I've done in therapy with clients when we're doing a style of therapy called EMDR, which you might be familiar with. Yes. Mm-hmm. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And I would say that this creates, the bilateral stimulation of EMDR creates sort of a lightly hypnosis state that allows clients to really go into their subconscious material. And it's so powerful for processing trauma, blocks, things that have been with people for so long. And even just your image of like pulling out the eel, I've seen so many times like that moment of transition when I'm removing this block from my body in some way.
Right.
And it's amazing. And I've experienced that in dreams as well, by the way. Like I've literally had a dream where I removed this black stone like out of my body and like buried it. It is interesting, even just as you're describing like the different types of symbols that kind of like recur for people too around this.
Yes, absolutely. And the black stone comes up a lot as well. Really? Yes, that's another, I wouldn't say common, but one that I hear a lot of. And as you say, for trauma work too, hypnotherapy can be very helpful because, part of trauma, part of our brain feels like it's stuck in that traumatic experience. So with hypnosis, another technique is regression. So we can go back to that time. I'm not a huge believer in bringing the client back to the actual moment of trauma itself. What I do is I bring them back to a time around then where you get to reconnect with that part, but in a safe environment. So maybe bring them to, say it happened in childhood, I'll bring them to their bedroom or I'll bring them to their garden. Never really usually, probably 99% of the time, never to the point of trauma itself. And then the beautiful thing is then you get to bring, and probably the key element is you get to bring that part of you, say if that child, right into the present day. So they start to, so the child is right with them in the room. And that's always a beautiful moment too, because they report that the child is so excited to be with this adult version of themselves. And they're so excited to see this adult who's turned out to be really cool, really interesting. They have this life, and that little child then gets so excited and feels safe, and that's also a beautiful moment to see.
There's so many parallels in what I hear you describing with just all of these different sort of ancient kinds of traditions around like, what could even be described as sort of like shamanism. Like I'm thinking of the practice of like soul retrieval, right? Like these things just all blend. And I'm wondering now if you can tell us a little bit about the roots of some of this for you. So you said that you've been practicing this since you were a small child. And I'm curious how you learned some of this, if there are any sort of ancestral or cultural ties. So just tell us about that.
I was taught self-hypnosis by my father when I was 8 years old. My father was the GP. He was the local doctor in the area. And he studied hypnotherapy, which was actually quite advanced for that time. It was 1980s, rural Ireland. There was not a lot of hypnosis, wasn't a thing. So he went to train in order to help his patients for smoking, for weight control. And I always remember the day he came back from his training. I always remember this. I was 8 years old. And he taught me that night how to do self-relaxation, basically self-hypnosis. And I always remember the place I went to. It was a beach where I spent my childhood holidays. And it's still the place I go back to in my own self-hypnosis right now. So when I was 8 years old, I learned the tool. I knew how to do it. I continued to use it throughout, my teens. That was the moment when I started to call it something, but I probably was doing elements of like meditation before that. I just never called it meditation. Which a lot of people, I think that's probably the same case for an awful lot of people.
If it's our natural state, then as children we just do it.
There you go. Yeah, that is the truth. That is the truth. So I always had an interest in it, and then I started formally meditating around the age of about 18 or 19. So I had a on and off practice for probably 10 years, and then was about 30 I really dug in, and I still am a daily meditator. So it has always been a part of my life. It's always felt like an integrated part of my life. It's not something that I feel like I step into a different persona when I do it. And I also feel with the music, as I told you before, I started writing songs when I was 13, started performing then, and I think it was all part of the same work. I think that when I wrote songs, and I only realized this since I started formally doing hypnotherapy with clients, is that I think I always just wanted to help people have some experience, some internal experience. And for a long time, I thought it was songs that I could do that with people via that medium, which it did. And I think that was my draw, to be able to work with somebody either by a song or a performance, and now hypnotherapy, work with them in an intimate way where they can get quiet and still and have some internal experience. I think for me, that has always been what I've been drawn to. And now I can do it, I guess, in a more formal way.
More of a teacher role, even a guide.
A guide. The word teacher, it's funny, the word teacher, it always assumes that you know something more. And I don't know if I do. A guide feels better. I have some tools that I can
Facilitator,
yeah. And it's funny, that word teacher, it's probably, I guess it's work I have to do myself. Why am I uncomfortable with using the word teacher? It's just because my belief is, and this is coming just from experience, is that everybody knows their own truth. Everybody has their own answers. It's just a matter of getting quiet. And we still need guidance to get there. We still need guidance to get there.
I know, because it's... tell me what you think about this. The way I see that is that it's almost like this permission, like just like giving ourselves permission to like go inward and like take these things seriously.
Right.
And sometimes we need like a witness. We need someone to like be with us in that.
Yes, absolutely. I love that, the word witness. That's what we're bearing witness to, other people's inner processing, their own questioning, and then their own insights and their own wisdom.
Yeah.
So the main work really is just getting still and quiet. And once you get still and quiet, and then decide on whatever vehicle be it, therapy, traditional therapy, be it hypnosis, be it meditation, whatever it might be. But there's one thing they all have in common, is you got to stop.
Yes.
You got to pause. Like we were talking about at the very start of the interview, our work is you got to just stop and decide and commit to doing the work, getting quiet. And that's the battle. After that, I'm not saying it's easy, but after that, something happens. Something happens. So really, the work and the discipline is getting the stillness and the quiet. And that's why daily meditation is wonderful, because it's a practice of getting still and quiet.
Yes. And then that can make way for this sort of remembering that you're talking about, of like, oh, this is who I really am. Like, this is...
Yep. Exactly. And then the more we get familiar with that place, the more we are able to be in that place. It's like what we pay attention to, it shows up. What we see is what we see. So if we start to be more familiar with this, and the state it's a sense of calm, it's a sense of grounding, steadiness. People report a sense of oneness.
That makes sense.
But it's very internal. And I have not had one. I don't know how many people I've worked with in the last number of years. Over I don't know, maybe, I don't even know, over 250 people. And they have, not one of those people, Jordan, have not been able to experience even glimpses, even just for moments of time, this sense of calm, inner steadiness, peace. And a lot of them are very surprised that it's there.
That makes so much sense.
But,
like I've heard so many people
Yeah.
feel like maybe that's just not available to me, right? Like maybe that's just not something I can do. And like you're saying, even a glimpse is that reminder, that possibility of this is here. This is your birthright.
There you go. Yeah. Possibility. That's a wonderful word. Possibility. That's a huge thing as well. Sometimes if a person, if all they get is a sense of possibility in the work, that's it. That might be enough.
It's an opening.
It's an opening. Yeah. Possibility. That might be enough.
Oh, I love it so much. Oh my God. Ben, this is so cool. I can't wait to get hypnotized by you.
It's, you know what?
I'm ready.
We should do it live.
Oh God.
And,
I don't know if I'm that brave.
no, it is a wonderful. No, that would be pretty brave. That would be pretty brave. But it's and you know the other thing I would love to demystify hypnosis, because it's such a loaded word. A lot of people see stage hypnotherapy, where the hypnotherapist seems to be in control of other people's actions. And this is not that. This is not that work at all. This is so far from that. The beautiful thing is you're in control every step of the way of the practice. Okay, I'm not in control. You're the one who's in control. I just give you a set of instructions that you either choose to follow or not. I'm always trying to, most clients will walk away from the session with a completely different perspective of what hypnosis is. Completely different perspective. And but it is such a loaded word. It is such a loaded word. I like to call it like subconscious work. That feels, relaxed subconscious work is probably, that's what it feels like, relaxed subconscious work.
Exactly, the most sort of just basic way to understand, to describe. I know. No, you're right. The language of even just the term hypnosis can be so tricky. Yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out. I hadn't thought to ask you about that, but that's really important.
It is really important, as I say, just because of the perception of stage hypnosis. I think it can influence. But I say this is a million miles. I don't fully understand stage hypnosis. I'm not saying anything else about it. I certainly could not stand on a stage and get somebody to dance like a chicken. But again, that's a whole world that I have no experience in, and my desire is to. It's a much more personal, intimate, one-on-one experience with people. Yeah.
Well, now that reminds me. So your offerings are one-to-one, right? Hypnosis sessions, and then you also have classes. Is that right?
So I do. All the sessions happen on Zoom, and they're all one-on-one. And then the classes, I do offer a couple. I also teach meditation, and I have a couple of group classes that I offer. I used to do a lot more meditation work, but now it's just pretty much hypnosis most of the time. So, but mostly it's just one-on-one. So and the beautiful thing about Zoom is that I've just noticed I've used that word, the beautiful thing, an awful lot in this interview today. I need to get a thesaurus out.
I do the same thing. I go through phases where I'm just on one phrase and I just can't stop. But beautiful thing is such a nice thing.
You just cannot stop.
We don't mind.
It is. I just may have to hypnotize myself to use a different phrase. With Zoom, the opportunity is I get to work with people. It doesn't matter where they are. So if clients, say, here in Nashville, of clients on the West Coast, East Coast, even back home in Ireland and in the UK. The only troublesome part is working out of time zone.
I know.
But so, and again, talking about the pandemic, not to be grateful for the pandemic, but grateful for some of the opportunities that it created.
Absolutely.
Zoom came out of it, and for me, it allows, it facilitates.
That's right.
This work.
Accessibility. I know. I completely agree. I hope that therapy becomes more Zoom friendly. Right now, we're still bound by like state to state laws, which is frustrating.
Right.
But hopefully we're moving in a different direction.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a subject for another day. Okay, Ben, we're coming to the end of our time. I am so, so, so grateful for your just graciousness and lovely energy. Like, I've just so enjoyed just being with you, spending time with you, and just learning so much. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jordan.
Yes, in order to make sure that we're covering all of our bases, I would love it if you would just give the listeners just a little synopsis of like how they can engage with your work and sort of follow along, find you, follow with whatever it is that you're going to be offering.
So it's pretty straightforward. I have a website, and the only thing the website really offers is a way to contact me. So it's bestillawake.com. A bit of a mouthful, but it's so bestillawake.com. If you go there, you can email me, and all of my work, it's all word of mouth. So I don't
Nice.
I don't promote it anywhere really. I'm very grateful that it has just been word of mouth to date. So it's very simple. There's just really one thing I can offer, and that's the website. So if anybody, and if anybody's listening and they want to, try a session or work on something in particular, I would absolutely love to hear from you.
Yes, we'll link to the website in the show notes for sure. And I love that, Ben. I love the simplicity of just word of mouth. That's so nice.
Yes, I'm very grateful of people who they tell their friends they have a good experience.
That's
and
right.
they want to tell their friends.
It's genuine.
So I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. That's the only marketing.
Fantastic.
That's the only marketing strategy
Fantastic.
that I have. So, and then of course talking to yourself, which is great.
Like you said, a podcast appearance. This is a first. So yay!
This is a first. I've never talked about this work in public before.
Ben.
So
I'm honored.
This is the first time. Oh no! Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think part of it, I've been used to with music, having a career in music. It's been a lot of self-promotion, and it's just part of it. And I think I get burned out from it. So I have a bit of, not reluctance, but I like it. I like keeping it. I guess I feel like not having to completely expose the work all the time, like one has to do with music.
Yes. And that way the energy can just go where you want it to go and not get siphoned off into all these other directions. Yeah,
that's a really good way of putting it. A really good way of putting it. But that's why this has been fantastic. The opportunity to talk with you and share the work.
Oh, I'm so glad. Well, I've loved it, and I know the listeners are going to love it. And we'll link to all the information that they will need in order to contact you and get in touch.
Brilliant.
So thank you, Ben. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay.
Thanks for being here.
That's a wrap for this episode. If you haven't already, please take a moment now to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcast app of choice. It really makes a difference and helps other people find the show. Special thanks to my guest, Ben Glover. May an abundance of willing hearts continue to find your services, and may the resulting healing be exponential. We'll see you back here next month with another amazing guest. And in the meantime, we hope you'll join us in the next Saturday Salon, a weekly hour of sacred space to spend on your creative projects, hosted by Jordan via Zoom. Sign up via the events page on our website, psychemagicpodcast.com. If you believe in this work and want to support the continuation of our show, please join us on Patreon. There, we are building a community where you'll find bonus dream work exercises, guided meditations, fun minisodes, and so much more. That's patreon.com/psychemagic. All links are included in show notes. We hope you'll also follow along with our shenanigans on Instagram and TikTok at Psyche Magic Podcast. Psyche Magic was produced and recorded by me, Jordan Hale. Editing for this episode is by Masuzu Inaga. Our theme music is by Young Summer. Artwork is by Annika Murphy. Special thanks go to Daniel Higby, Grace Fuse, and Michael McMillan. Thank you so much for listening. I'll leave you with a question. If you must sleep through a third of your life, are you willing to sleep through your dreams too?
Get your dream journals out, y'all. Until next time.